Welcome everyone to today's session. Say hi to Hello Britannica. My name is Chris Heinz. I am the Director of Customer Experience here at Britannica. Today I have an all-star team with me to help introduce this new resource to all of our attendees and everybody who is watching the recording as well. So with me I have Alex Mendiola. He's our Product Manager for Hello Britannica. Criselda Dixon, who is a Customer Experience Manager, and Rob's Mosquita, who is an education consultant, and they are our MLL experts here to share all of this new information with all of you today. So let me go ahead and jump into our content and talk about our agenda. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go through some quick introductions. We'll talk a little bit about Britannica Education as a whole and what we stand for here. Then we're going to go into discussing a little bit about MLLs and how to support them in the classroom. We'll have a little bit of a panel discussion here. We will jump into our newest product, Hello Britannica, and do a quick demo. And I will share some resources that we have from our Teach Britannica resource as well that can really help as you're working with MLL students. At the end, we'll have Q&A and next steps. But if you have any questions as we go through our content today, please communicate through the chat. The chat is open for all attendees. So any questions, comments, feedback, concerns as we go through our session, please feel free to let us know. We will do our best to either answer those in the chat or answer them as part of the presentation as well. So at Britannica Education, really our purpose here is to empower educators. We want to make sure that we are providing as much support in the educational space as we can. We do this through a very diverse collection of digital solutions. So some of you may be current Britannica subscribers. You may have Britannica School, which is our K-12 reference resource. You may have Britannica Escolar, which is our content that's written in Spanish by our Spanish language editorial team. You may have Expedition Learn or another Britannica product that you subscribe to. But we really try to create digital solutions to help meet the needs of educators. So we have a vast array of different solutions. You'll get to see what all of them look like when I go into the Teach Britannica homepage and see everything that we have there. But along with that, we try to provide as much tailored customer support as possible. That's really where my team comes in, where Criselda and I really work to make sure that we're supporting our customers and making sure that you have all the training and support necessary to get the most out of these products, as well as providing professional learning opportunities. And so with those three key areas, we really are doing our best to try to help support the joy of learning in your classroom. So hopefully you see all of that shine through our content as we present today. So when we speak about multilingual learners, and I'm sure a lot of you here, you saw some of our marketing outreach, you've heard about this product, but when we look at the multilingual population of the United States, it's about 5.3 million students, right? Makes up about 10.6% of the public school population. And the real question is, what can we do to not only help support those students, but also to support the educators who are charged with educating those students as well? So what I'm going to do is we're going to go to our next slide here, and our two MLL experts are going to answer a couple questions here in kind of a panel discussion format. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll continue to drive the slides here, but I'll turn things over to Chris and Robs, who will speak to a little bit about how we're working to support multilingual learners.
Okay.
So I'll start it. Yeah, I'll tee it up here with our first question. So Chris, what are some of the struggles that educators face when it comes to multilingual learners?
Well, thanks for asking that question. There's so many struggles that educators face, but especially because we've got so many multilingual learners in classrooms. And one of the biggest critical struggles is the language barrier. As educators, we strive to make all our students feel welcomed, feel accepted, and valued, that their culture is valued, that what they're bringing to the classroom is valued. And we do that because we want to get to know the students, but we also do that to build relationships with them and their families. So it's extremely important that in order to build those relationships, it's hinging on their social and emotional well-being. And in order to do that, we need to be able to communicate with them. So with students that are coming in with MLLs that are coming in with limited or no English speaking abilities, and their families also that are coming in, this language barrier is a real challenge for educators. Also for the students that are older, in order to re-engage them into the classroom, because they already have, a lot of angst about being in a classroom where they're not speaking the language. To have that support, that linguistic support, is vital for students and for educators to build relationships with the younger students and the older students as well. So that I think is a critical issue. Also, another struggle, and this one is just as important, is that here in the United States, we're asked as educators, regardless of the students that we have in our classrooms, that we are to teach the required grade level skills and the concepts. And we need to do this in a differentiated manner because we need to give students, our MLL students, access to materials with the appropriate language support to meet their varied language levels. So these educators are tasked with providing instruction in both content and language within their instructional day. And their students are also required to not only acquire new learning of the grade level content, but also to develop their English language skills at the same time to achieve that academic success. So that's a huge task for educators and for multilingual learners. So they do require, this is a big challenge. And I know educators out there are trying to find solutions and have found solutions, but we can always use additional support in those areas.
Oh, thank you, Chris.
Mhm.
Appreciate the insight. I know that there's a lot of struggles out there, and really working to kind of bridge the gap to make sure that we're supporting those students and making them feel heard in our classrooms as well. Why is it essential for educators to monitor students' language development?
And Chris, when Robs and I were discussing these questions, we really came up with this, when we're thinking about why is it so essential for students to monitor their language development, for teachers to monitor that of their students, is because, we always talk about beginning with the end in mind. We want to know where we're going to be headed. And this is not just for reading, for writing, for the content areas. We need to also know for our language skills, where do we want to take our students? And assessing them and identifying their language proficiency skill from the get-go, that's important because we got to know where they're at. But
Exactly. So like having
yes,
appropriate
right.
support through all the language levels and identifying all the needs for scaffolding from day one, and to actually monitor not only where you're going, but the whole way through, right, Chris?
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah. And one of the things, Chris, is that if we don't monitor the language development, if we don't monitor that throughout the school year, if we do not have a resource to help us do that, then we really aren't able to determine if the instruction that we're providing is effective. And having said that, there's been cases in my years in the classroom, and as an administrator, that where we think we're doing the right thing for certain students, but yet at the end of the year, when we finally do give them an assessment, we've realized, oh, they haven't made any advancement. There hasn't been a lot of growth here. And having that progress monitoring periodically throughout the school year is going to eliminate that loss right there, because teachers will know automatically whether they need to adjust their instruction or if they need to continue on with what they're doing because it's working.
Also, this monitoring, it makes teachers able to take informed decisions to ensure that all the support the students are getting really align with the content, as Griselda mentioned in the first question, that we have to align this with teaching content. So if we do monitor all the way through, we can align the support they're giving with everything else that's going on in the classroom. And it also provides additional data to communicate with parents and to other staff, and to foster a more inclusive environment for these multilingual learners.
Yeah, absolutely. My background is in social studies. I was never necessarily a very analytical person. I know when I was in the classroom, data-driven instruction was really kind of is kind of getting started, right? And how can we leverage that data? So I definitely appreciate that. Even as a social studies, not necessarily a super analytical person, but being able to use that data to make meaningful change for students as well. All
Yeah,
right,
that's important.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's important for any student, but
Yeah,
especially for those who need this special eye of the teacher.
absolutely.
Yes.
All right, so last question here. What supports are available to MLL students and educators?
Well, in theory, a lot of supports, but like we can talk about sheltered instruction, scaffolding techniques, differentiated instruction. There are language programs, ESL, EFL, ELL, dual language, bilingual education. We can go on
Yes.
forever. But none of this happens if the teachers don't know what they're dealing with, and if they're not trained to deal with multilingual learners. And I think that is the biggest emphasis that we need to take off this whole conversation, is that teachers, they need the support, and they need the training just as much as the students who are learning a different language. So thinking about professional development, and especially in culturally responsive teaching, and collaborating with ELL or EFL, ESL specialists, all this can equip teachers with the tools they need to develop these MLL students. And also engaging the families and understanding their background. Sometimes when we approach the target instruction to their reality, if a child is coming from a different country, from a different background, from a whole different cultural background, we need to understand and to make them welcome, and so that they feel that whatever they're bringing with them is valued, is important, so and they can relate to what's being taught in the classroom.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very powerful. I know we definitely want to make sure that we are meeting the students where they're coming from, right? And that we're making them feel heard, we're making them feel valued in that classroom as well. So thank you for the insight there. As we go forward, we are going to talk now a little bit about our newest tool to help really address MLL students in the classroom and how you can help to support them and supplement the instruction that you're currently doing. So that is Hello Britannica. So say hi to this new resource that is launching from Britannica Education. And I'm going to kick things over to Alex, and Alex is going to tell us, set it up a little bit and tell us a little bit about Hello Britannica, its development, and where it's coming from before we jump into our live demo here.
Thanks so much, Chris. I just wanted to tack on one other idea for what Chris and Robs were saying. And the good news for teachers who maybe aren't doing the pull-out classroom with ELL students or MLL students is that all the techniques that Robs and Griselda listed work for all students. And we should make all of our students feel that welcome and heard and so forth. And so the good news is you don't have to add to what you're already doing. It will work with everyone. But in respect to Hello Britannica, I just wanted to I was an English teacher. I had like 5 languages taught in my classroom. So that's where I'm coming from. They work for everybody, which is really great.
Alex, thank you so much for mentioning that, because I was wanting to say the same thing that, when it comes to Hello Britannica, I think one of the supports that teachers really would appreciate is having something in their classroom that they can't just use in their class, within their classroom walls, but the students can actually go and continue on with the practice
Right.
once they leave the classroom, and their families too. So thank you. Thank you for adding
Well,
that.
of course. Yeah, and this idea of their families too, I'll come back to that later because I think this is an interesting thing we found as we were going around the country talking to administrators and teachers about their needs in their school communities. But Hello Britannica was created to support students and teachers and their larger communities in a classroom environment where every student feels confident to participate, where, as Rob said, where their voices are heard, but also making learning English an exciting journey. And I'm sure we've all witnessed the immense pressure students face when participating in a class, especially when they're still developing their English skills. That pressure can be overwhelming, leading to anxiety and reluctance to participate. It's hindering their learning. So we developed Hello Britannica to create a safe and supportive learning environment where students can practice these skills and grow at their own pace in conjunction with whatever direct instruction they're getting in English as a new language. And there are three of the main ways that it's going to help students and educators. This idea of proficiency and understanding. We've got a wealth of engaging activities and exercises that build a deep understanding of English. Students can practice reading, they can practice listening, but also the production skills. And I think this is where kind of my heart goes out to students who are learning this language anew, is that's the last thing that develops, this ability to produce language. And because of that high stakes, that socially high stakes environment, when, if I raise my hand and I say the wrong thing or I mispronounce a word, it can be socially risky. Hello Britannica, because you can take it with you, allows them low stakes practice with things like production, as well as listening and reading. They're all linked to real world scenarios too. I'll get into that in a little bit more in detail here, but we also provide some supports for educators in terms of giving you intelligence on how your students are performing, right? It's nearly real time. As soon as a student completes an activity, you're gonna see the results of that activity populate on your teacher dashboard. So there's real-time data, personalized reports per student, per classroom. That allows the educators to identify areas in which these students learning English might need some extra support. And it really empowers you to differentiate your learning in the classroom too. And finally, being something that has been designed mobile first, it allows the students to engage outside the classroom, as Griselda mentioned, while still remaining rigorous and aligned to the framework of the platform that we designed here. So self-paced learning, developing the skills they need to thrive in this English-speaking world. Can you advance this slide for me, Chris? There we go. So we enlisted an international team, truly international team of English language learning experts who built a bespoke scope and sequence. So this is from the ground up. Every activity, every interaction in this was built from scratch by these experts. And they align with the common European framework of reference for languages, which is the international standard for learning English. And within that framework, if you're familiar with it or not, there are a number of can-do statements. There are these real-world tasks that are applicable to interacting in the English-speaking world. And every single activity is aligned with one of those. Can you move to the next? Wait, I'm sorry. Going over my notes, forgot this. So we did design it to be mobile first, which makes it easy for students to practice their English anytime, anywhere. And that real-time data and the dashboard for the teachers they'll be able to monitor the progress and provide that individual support. Go ahead and move on to the next one. And within those, the skill development, you're probably familiar with these four kind of areas of language, these four skills. So the activities, of which there are 13, at the moment, there are 13 different activity types. And they give them that practice in reading, writing, speaking, listening. So both reception and production. We have vocabulary games, of course, grammar challenges, and even something that mimics natural language conversations. So they have those opportunities to practice in context the language that they're learning. And right now, to start, we have over 40,000 questions and thousands of activities. There's always something new for them to learn. I'm going to kick it back over to you, Chris, and I think you're going to take us into the platform itself.
Yes, sir. So before we jump into the platform, we do have kind of a couple different usage recommendations here. As much as possible, I won't read through every word on these slides, but daily practice is critical, right? To make sure that our students are really reinforcing these skills through the platform. So as much as possible is one method. We do look at kind of classroom instruction and knowing that there are many, many, many different priorities that you have. So in real life, your usage recommendations depend on what's specific to your school, what's going to work for your students. Even within the classroom, what works for one student may not work for another student. So really, the individualized nature, the personalized nature of this content can really help you in terms of finding out what's your real life usage here. And again, your mileage may vary, right? It may work that some students are coming in at a little bit higher level, they don't need as much practice. Some students are coming in at a lower level and need a little bit more. So we recommend using it as an app, as a resource for individualized instruction for students as well. We'll go through kind of the different ways to engage here. So supplementing your curriculum, again, with those skills that Alex referenced, and tracking progress. I'll show you a little bit about what your data looks like as well. So I'm going through these slides really quickly so then we can jump here into our live demo. So bear with me, and I will go ahead and switch to Hello Britannica. So what you're looking at here is a teacher account. One of the key differences between what a teacher sees in here and what a student sees in here is that teachers are able to access all of the content and all of the activities within the entire platform. So as a teacher, you are able to go through each different section and explore all of the different content and activities within the platform here. Student views, they take a very linear path through all of this. So as Alex said, this is really a learning journey for students. So we start here in the school and education unit. You can see students would go through greetings and leave takings, then they would move on to classroom routines, then school subjects, and so on. So students are really going to follow that path. Again, mapped out by our multilingual learning experts to really provide them kind of the best path forward to gaining English proficiency here. So let me just show you a little bit of what this looks like here. Looking at the games, looking at the activities here, this does match what students will see. So again, as they move through each activity, these will be grayed out at first, and then students will have the opportunity to move through all of these here. So we'll go into our first activity here with greetings and leave takings. So we'll jump in here. We'll see, what is the student saying here? Hi or hello. So I'll go through and just answer. I'm just kind of guessing as I go through just to show you how the platform works. As we go through, you will notice I'm going to get a bunch of these wrong. There will be a notification that comes up if I get too many of them wrong to tell me that I am kind of approaching the end of the activity. If I don't pass the activity, it will then require me to try that again. So we do really encourage students to continue to try as they're going through here, but it will kind of map this out for them as they move through the different activities. Let's pick one that looks a little bit different here in a US classroom. So here we're going to show off our writing. Describe the image you see, get a grade based on your writing. It's a fun way to improve how you use English. So this one here, I'll just look at this. I don't know if anyone wants to communicate in the chat what we're seeing here. But what do you see in this image? I'm going to say I see a classroom with chalkboard and desks with paper and pen. Go ahead and submit. You'll see that this will now analyze the writing just a few seconds as it kind of goes through. And it will thank me for my submission. My teacher will then be able to see my responses and see if I was able to really accurately portray what I'm seeing in the activity here. So image to text and writing is definitely a big piece of this as well. If I go into, I believe, this activity here, we have a matching game activity. So leisure activities and hobbies. And we'll go into this. So flip our cards to find the matches between text and images. So bear with me here as I try to find, oh, got that one correct. There we go. The other thing that you will notice, so we do have these kind of matching games, right? Getting students to match images and text together as well. So we do have, as Alex said, 13 different activity types in here. I'm not going to go through every single one of them. I don't know if that would be helpful for our purposes here today, but really designed to kind of represent what students are going to come across both in the classroom and out in the real world as well. These real world experiences to really help them gain English proficiency can help them to draw connections with what they're seeing out there as well. So as students go through, right, they'll start with a level test. It will adjust the content. It will adjust the difficulty for that particular student and really give them targeted practice to help them build those English skills. Alex, is there anything missing that I missed, or Chris, anything that I missed as I kind of demonstrated the activities here so far?
Can I just add, when you were writing down the description of that classroom, because it was asking for what were the differences from this US classroom to your classroom, it's because this is a global, right? We use it throughout the world. So if you happen to not be a student in the US of A, then you could be talking like you could be in Brazil classroom, and you're comparing that with the picture that you're seeing of a US classroom. So that's what that question was referring to. Alex, I don't know if you wanted to add anything more.
I saw there's an open question in the Q&A as well about that the instructions are in Spanish in what we're seeing right now, how many different languages are available. It's a great question. I'm glad this came up because right now we have Spanish and Portuguese because we've launched in South America. Makes sense that we would do those two languages. And it was a number of native Spanish speakers who are learning English in the US as well as Portuguese. But those are the only two currently. On the longer term roadmap, we have plans to add more what we call L1 languages, right? So we've identified a few that are high needs in the US, Haitian Creole in Florida, and there's, Hmong in the Midwest, there's Chinese on the West Coast. So we're identifying those languages that we want to add. But in the short term, what we're really working on and should be releasing very quickly is an English to English version as well. So in that case, we're adapting the lower level instructions and even the prompts, the questions that we're asking students. So everything is in English. I know a lot of folks, take an immersion approach to learning language too. So we're going to have that structure as well as the international ability to add languages as we need to. But that's a longer term as we've got some higher priorities before we get to that.
I know one of the questions on here is when will this trial start? Like when can it launch? And I imagine that it can launch as soon as you get in contact with us and we get you started. It will go until the end of February.
Yep. Awesome. So thank you. I appreciate the context there. And again, if you have more questions, please keep them coming. We're happy to answer questions as we go forward here. The second piece that I wanted to share with everyone here is what you see as a teacher for your students. So we're looking here at a teacher view where we can see all of my students that are in here. We can see their levels, we can see their average scores, average progress. We can also see a class report. So let me go ahead and download the class view so that we can see what this looks like as well. And bear with me
And
again.
when your time is appropriate, Chris, we have another great question in the Q&A that I'll answer once we get your time.
Perfect. And what I was going to say is I keep doing this where I click on something and I should have something prepared to say while that content loads, and then I end up kind of awkwardly pausing and letting the the load screen go here. But what's pulling up right now is the class report. So to be able to see kind of what is being pulled and data that's being pulled for the full class. And I apologize, I'm getting the low system resources thing now. So maybe I'm crashing my internet. Hopefully I don't completely disappear here. All right, well, let's go back to Hello Britannica. And I'll show you within the platform here. We'll get back to that once it actually loads here. Show you what it looks like at the individual student level as well. So if I go ahead and click, we'll look at Mike's content here. And this should load up on the screen here. So as an individual student, we can see how often the students have been practicing. So you can see that Mike practiced on Monday and Wednesday. He has not practiced these other days here. Then we can see their progress. And so again, we start with school and education. You see, because Mike has a student account, he has not accessed any of these later units or later topics or activities. But we can go in and we can see that he's 40% complete in the school and education unit. For each one of these here, we can see how many topics he's completed, how many activities, and then how many stars he's earned. So for each activity, as students complete this, they'll get somewhere between 1 and 3 stars when they complete the activity. Stars will give them coins as well, so that when they use those coins, they can use them for hints within the platform if they click on the help button. So it allows them to do things like extend their time. It allows them to remove answer choices from multiple choice questions and give them a little bit more support there. For each one of these, then, we can go and see the topics that we've completed, the percentage correct, and how many stars they've gotten. And then, like Alex said, in the that Common European Framework, we have can do, right? So what can I do at the end of this lesson? I can greet people. And we have kind of this emoji. Maybe you can speak to the emoji rating a little bit more, Alex.
Yeah, so what we wanted to do is have not only checks for understanding like built into the assessments or the activities that we have there, but this is where students can actually self-reflect. And so at the end of a topic, they're going to be presented with 3 options. The can-do statement, I can greet people, and they can do smiley face, kind of middle face there, or frowny face, and that's another way for them to not only provide teachers with some information about how they felt they did, but also to self-reflect. And we all know that that does increase engagement with the material as well. So that's why we put that one.
Awesome. Thank you. Excuse me. And so again, for each of these, we can see all of this content here for the individual student. If I go ahead and click back, I can go to generate report. That will then PDF all of this content, right? So I can then share that outside of the platform as well, whether you're using that to communicate with parents, right? Share that this is how your student is progressing, or to go over those results with the student themselves. It can be a very helpful way to help support the work that you're doing as your students are learning English. Class report here finally loaded, so we can kind of see, and again, if you have a larger group of students, we will see kind of more robust data in here as well. But you can see from each of your students, right, how many of them are practicing, how many of them are going in on a daily basis, and their average skills scores across each of the 6 content areas, right? So grammar, speaking, listening, reading, spelling, and vocabulary. So this just kind of gives you that high level snapshot to see how your students are performing within the platform as well. So I will open things up. Does anyone have any questions, additional questions? I know a few have come in the chat as well, but any additional questions before we move on and speak to some of our other supporting resources, because we are approaching kind of the end of our time here today. Alex, I know there was a question you wanted to respond to from the Q&A.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. So it's, I'll just read it out. This seems like it's geared toward intermediate and advanced MLLs. That is those that have a high level of literacy and also relatively high levels of background knowledge. Is this program also appropriate for pre-literate students, those without wide background knowledge, and what supports are in place for students like these? So great question. We are aware of the need for supports for pre-literate learners. At the moment, we have a number of things that play audio for students, and we have on our roadmap, and not too long a term roadmap, to make audio everything. So at the very least, they'll be able to hear all of the text that they see on screen, including the instructions, et cetera. So that will address those that are, hearing abled to be able to interact with what we have on there. There are other supports like making it more media rich so that it's not reliant on the printed words so much to start to learn these at the very basic level of vocabulary, but also other ways to interact with folks who are speaking English. So great point there. We have some things on our roadmap to address those. Remember, this is meant to be used in conjunction with live instruction. So I don't want anyone to think that we believe that Hello Britannica in its current form or even in future forms is meant to be something you put your MLLs in front of and they're going to learn English without any outside influence. We know you're doing things already to support your MLLs. This is to help give them that low stakes practice so that they can build those skills and give you the information you need to individualize or differentiate that instruction. Another related question was another person was asking, Jessica was asking that she's seeing a lot of pre-literate English learners, so also interested in this idea. Stay tuned, it's on the roadmap. The other thing that we're doing related to this is the content has been geared toward 6th through 12th grade. And what I mean by that is the types of topics that you'll see will appeal to that very broad range of ages. So one of the things we have on the short-term roadmap is to create content that is also applicable to younger learners. So while not directly addressing the pre-literate question we had from in the Q&A, it is addressing this idea of, what is going to be the most engaging sort of activities for those younger learners. For example, someone in 3rd grade is not going to care too much or understand very well about the idea of getting their first job. We will adapt those kinds of content to meet the needs of those younger learners. We'll be able to reuse lots of it because not all of it is it's agnostic to age range. So those are a couple of things that are coming up. And I think I addressed Eliza's question already with this idea of English to English. So everything's in English. That's coming, I'm hoping, later this month, next month. Plan, not a promise. So I'll turn it back over. Are there any other questions that we missed in the Q&A or the chat?
No, it looks like we've been kind of addressing the chat questions as they've come through. So thank you, Alex. I appreciate the context there. So I do, as we start to wrap up here, I do want to speak to a couple different things that live aligned to Hello, but outside of Hello. So the first one is Teach Britannica. So let me pull this up on my screen here. So Teach Britannica is an open access resource open to all educators that has a lot of really great content that aligns to all of our different Britannica education products. So as we look at Hello Britannica here, you can see this is our Hello Britannica homepage. We have instructional strategies that are really designed to be used flexibly to supplement the work that you're doing in the classroom. A lot of these instructional strategies are just good teaching and learning practices, right? So going back to what Alex said, that we're working to kind of use this content to help reach our MLL students. But with good teaching and learning, these are valuable activities for all students as well. So making sure that we're kind of providing these resources here. We also have a great set of graphic organizers that have always been very popular as well. And again, all of this content is open access, so you can go directly to teachbritannica.com. You can access all of this content here. Specifically, as we look at Spanish content, we do have Spanish lesson plans as well that are mapped to our Britannica Escolar product. So you can access these also. Again, these are resources that are free and available. So feel free to pick and choose what works for you, what you can repurpose, and what's appropriate for you and your students as well. You will also receive, as follow-up to this webinar, this Hello Britannica extension activity document. This is brand new, hot off the presses, has not been loaded into Teach Britannica yet. It will be soon. But this extension activity document does have some additional activities and content that you can use to supplement your classroom instruction and really help to align and reinforce what students are learning within Hello Britannica. So you will get access to this document as well. The last piece here is our professional learning. So Chris, I'll let you do, if you can do a quick 30-second plug for our professional learning resources as well.
Well, let's see. Just so you know, there's a team of us in our multilingual learners team. It's Rob's, myself, and Viviana, our subject matter expert, Viviana Hall. And so we have been working to develop courses. There's actually 3 courses that we have right now that are available. And our first course is just centered on identifying, it's a session that's centered on identifying the MLL learners in your classroom. What kind of learners are they? And actually, we talk about strategies that you can use to do this kind of gathering of data, as well as strategies that we can start implementing in our classrooms to start addressing their needs at their different levels of language. But then we also have another course, and this is geared for the educators, because we know educators, I think Rob was speaking into this earlier about our educators need professional development. And most definitely with all the challenges that there is, we definitely need to grow more in these areas. So we do have a session that's focused on supporting our educators of students of I should say of multilingual learners with evidence-based practices and strategies. So that's also a course that's available, as well as a third course for districts. These are administrators that we want to focus on and facilitate their learning as they adjust and improve their existing multilingual learner implementation plans that they may have already, or maybe they need to start one, and we'd like to support them in that manner by coming in and working with them. So those are the sessions that we have, along with, we also have an EdWeb webinar that has been showcased this past fall, and we have an iBook that's, I'm sorry, it's a 10 Eyes ebook that's coming out for multilingual learners, and as well as a blog. So we've got all of that ready for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. So I know we've kind of gone through questions throughout the session here as well. So we are happy to stick around. I know we are at time from what we promised you that we would be delivering here. So I will go ahead and advance to our last slide here. Feel free to scan this QR code. This will take you directly to the Hello Britannica site, where you can access a little bit more information here as well. You can also go to britannicaeducation.com/hello-britannica to get all the information you need. So thank you very much. Again, those of you on the live call, please stick around. for just another minute or so. Those of you on the recording, thank you for viewing the recording, and please reach out to us, and we are more than happy to help support you.